Good afternoon, everybody. It is that time to get started, so we are going to go right ahead and begin today's webinar on the Madison Mentoring Program. I want to first just thank you guys for joining. If you are able to join in live today, if you're viewing the recording, we're happy about that as well. My name is Emma Maynard, and I'm the Assistant Director of Career and Network Programming in the Office of Alumni Relations. You'll also be hearing from my colleague, Michael McLeod, who's the Associate Director of Leadership for the Duke's Leadership Center here at JMU. And then later on the call for questions, we hope to have Ashley Privet, the Executive Director of the JMU Alumni Association, as well as Carson Lynette, who is a coordinator with the Office of Residence Life. So we are thrilled to have each and every one of you engaged in this unique alumni student mentorship program, in this pilot, and we're ready to kick things off. So just a little review of the Madison Mentoring Program. There are several factors that really contributed to our interest in developing this program for you all to participate in for this first time. So according to some surveys that we had with our alumni, we realized that one of the top ways that our alumni wanted to engage with our students is through helping our students in a personalized and meaningful way. So naturally, mentorship came to our mind. And there's also a correlation between mentorship and future workplace engagement and well-being of our students and our alumni, according to our partners at Gallup. With that, there's also a movement that we've seen on college campuses to strengthen what we've called the sophomore year experience because it can be a pivotal time for students like you all. Many of you are declaring your majors, you are taking on added responsibilities within clubs and organizations, and making decisions about your future careers, while also establishing your independence. So we are excited to be piloting this Madison Mentoring Program based on some of those initial topics. So with today, let me share my screen really quickly. All right, so with today's webinar, we hope to cover the following objectives with you all. So I just gave you an overview of the Madison Mentoring Program, and we'll talk a little bit later about some goals and expectations as well as a timeline for the pilot. Participants will receive an overview of StrengthsFinders, courtesy of Michael, talking about an assessment and how to use your specific results in your mentorship relationship. You'll also receive an overview of mentoring and some best practices and resources to get the most out of your experience. And you'll be able to ask some questions and receive feedback regarding the program that you guys are participating in. So with that, I'd like to kick things off by turning things over to Michael. So let me give you some rights here, Michael.
Great.
1 second. All right, you should be good to go.
Great. Thank you very much, Emma. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Duke's Leadership Center, we're excited to welcome you, have you a part of the program as we pilot this new adventure. And we're hopeful that we can develop a program and an infrastructure large enough to accommodate, if not every single second-year student here at JMU, then at least a vast number of them. So our hopes and dreams for the future are big and bold, and trying to reach out very, very large, and we're excited for you to join us in a beginning here with just a very small group of students to see how all this is going to work. Let me share with you the reasons for why Gallup organization, why a strengths philosophy, and why are we using that as a basis for a mentoring program, and how does that fit into what we're going to invite you to do. So the first thing that we're going to invite you to do is to consider, if I can get this to advance, there we go, the whole concept of the strengths perspective. If you're not familiar with the StrengthsFinder assessment instrument and that philosophy from Gallup, I invite you to take a look at this brief. It's about a 10-minute long video that I'll leave to you on your own. I'm not going to show that here. I had the opportunity to participate in a TEDx talk here at JMU a year ago, and I used the strengths philosophy as a foundation for that talk. If you go out to the YouTube and just look up JMU, TEDx, and my name, you'll find that. It'll give you a great perspective. I'm going to show you here today a very brief 1-minute video clip that will introduce the strengths assessment and what that's about. But essentially, the philosophy of Gallup and their strengths assessment is all about focusing primarily on the things that you are already good at, not focusing on your weaknesses and trying to make them better. The reason for that is because the strengths, as Gallup defines them, are founded in the basis of your naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior. And you've developed those over the course of your lifetime, and your greatest chance for excellence will be found in those areas. Specifically, the big ideas that Gallup has around their strengths philosophy is that success or excellence and accomplishment will come from those things that you are already good at. You just need to work at getting better at them. That doesn't mean you should ignore your weaknesses or not pay attention to the things that you don't have a strong competence in. You do need to develop competence and skills. We're not talking about the specific skills in order to do your job or in order to be effective in the roles that you have in life. We're talking about those things where you can truly, genuinely excel. So we want to rely on those natural ways of thinking, behaving, and performing that you've developed in your life. And as a result of focusing on those things, you strengthen the ability to consistently produce positive outcomes because you're going to develop near perfect performance in those specific tasks when you're applying your strengths. Those big ideas are the foundation for this strengths philosophy. Let me get a little more specific here by introducing the StrengthsFinder assessment through a short 1-minute video that tells you a little bit about where Gallup brought these ideas together, developed the algorithms and the data over the course of more than 50 years of study and research to now have this tool for us that's called the StrengthsFinder assessment.
Is zillion a real number? No, zillion's not a real number. But it is a word you might be tempted to use if you tried to list all the talents found among humankind. Creating a list of every talent is an impossible task, but if you step back, you'll see that talents often have something in common, a theme that connects them. Some talents, like a natural tendency to share thoughts, to create engaging stories, and to find the perfect word, relate directly to communication. That's what they have in common, their theme. So to begin thinking and talking about them, we can call them communication talents. The Clifton StrengthsFinder measures the presence of talents in 34 general areas or themes. Your Clifton StrengthsFinder report includes a ranked listing of the 5 themes that hold your most dominant talents, your signature themes. Similar to your fingerprint, the sequence of your themes is unique to you. The odds that someone has the same 5 signature themes in the same order as you are 1 in 33 million. You heard right, 1 in 33 million. Your report is a beginning, not an end. Take this opportunity to explore your talents, harness their power, and bring them to life every day. Try this. First, name it. To begin making your signature themes your own, grab a highlighter. Carefully consider each theme description in your report. Highlight words and phrases that specifically resonate with you. You'll know you're highlighting the right things when you hear yourself say, "That's me." Next, claim it. Post your signature themes and the words or phrases you have highlighted in a place where you'll see them every day. Share your report with people close to you. Ask for their reaction. Then, aim it. Pick one of your signature themes and think about it for a day. Ask yourself, how can I use this theme today? Where can this theme make a positive difference in my life today? Begin to flex this theme by using the action items provided in your report to hone your talents into strengths. Like muscles, strengths can wither if they're not exercised regularly. What will be your daily practice to stay in tip-top shape? Once you are deliberately using this theme every day, focus on another signature theme. As you start to flex each of your signature themes, you'll find ways to build on your greatest areas of potential. Our talents are an instinctive and intuitive source of wisdom and power. When we begin to intentionally tap into this power, we gain the ability to transform every moment, every interaction, and every day. You have dynamic talents just waiting to be unlocked and developed. Use your Clifton StrengthsFinder report to name, claim, and aim your signature themes.
So that's a very quick overview. Apologies for the video not streaming quite as cleanly as we'd hoped and being able to see all that visual. But let me ask this question, and if you will, look to the right side in your control panel, and there's a little hand that's showing there. I'd be kind of interested in knowing, click on that hand if you have heard of or are familiar with the Gallup StrengthsFinder before today. I'll wait for just a moment for people to give me a show of hands. Okay, Jim, I see you have said that you are. Great. Anyone else by chance? Okay, that's exciting. We get an opportunity to introduce you to a new tool, and one of the things that I want to be sure you're aware of, as you were probably told when you were first recruited to come participate with us, is every single one of you will have the opportunity to complete the StrengthsFinder, and it will become a part of your mentoring experience. And I might add, before moving any further, if you have any questions as I go through or as Emma does later, feel free to type those questions in the chat box, and we'll do our best to pay attention to those and address those questions as we go along. So think for just a moment what the implications for the students might be if we expose them to their 5 strengths and give them language to talk about it and then give them the support to explore it. One, we think they would be able to fully recognize their talents and then be able to build on them to continue to develop strengths. We think they would develop their strengths by daily considering what can they do to actually apply them in their lives. And finally, we see that they would be able to apply their strengths to achieve their goals, to gain excellence or actually become successful, whether that's graduate schools or careers or whatever their experiences that they might be wanting to achieve in life. The reason we're going with the strengths philosophy is based on a research that Gallup did with the University of Purdue. And they created this report that came out in 2014, the Gallup Purdue Index, where one of the findings was that students who graduated that reported they were emotionally supported while attending college had more than double the odds of being engaged in their work professionally and in their lives personally. And one of the most important questions, in fact, it became, as they did the study and the analysis, the #1 factor that indicated emotional support for students was the idea that they had a mentor who encouraged them to pursue their goals and dreams. So based on that, we decided a mentoring program and experience for every single JMU student would be the ideal. And perhaps the best way to do that would be to focus on a single group of students, our second-year students, and give them that mentoring experience as they came through their JMU curriculum or their JMU career. So what does a strengths-based mentoring look like if we were to actually put it into practice? Our goal in having you complete the StrengthsFinder and letting you become familiar with your strengths themes and knowing what that is so you can apply those strengths themes in the mentoring relationship. So it's based on 3 fundamental practices that you can use as you engage with the students and talk with them. First is you use your top 5 strengths as you interact, develop relationship, give counsel, advice, and have that experience in the mentoring relationship with a student. To give you the resources from your strengths themes, a way to guide students through a very deliberate and intentional strengths development process. That process we heard in the video very briefly: awareness, or name your strengths; development, that is to claim them as your own and integrate them into your life; and application, or aim them at the things you're going to achieve or the goals that you have set for yourself. So the mentoring process is very deliberate and intentional and deeply connected to the strengths philosophy. And finally, to individualize your mentoring experience based on the strengths that you bring as well as the strengths that the students will bring. So it is our intention that you're talking with each other about the findings and about the results from the strengths report. Let's assume for just a moment that you shared a specific strength theme with a student that you were mentoring. And we did not do any matching according to this because we don't have the strengths results. Those assessments have not gone out yet. But let's assume that the results came back and you just happen to have the same strength theme. Let's say that strength theme was achiever. You both were very strong in achievement, and that was a focus that you had. Well, that does not mean if you read the reports side by side, your report would not read exactly the same as your student's report, because the uniqueness of the combination of strengths themes is such that your strengths and the way they materialize and show up is different than the way the student's themes would show up. So even if you share one or two of the same themes, they're not the same way, they don't show up the same way. The other thing to keep in mind is it's very likely that you won't share any of the themes together, and that's okay. The goal here is that you learn from the student what their themes are and then help them see how to use those strengths themes in their work as students and in what they're trying to accomplish. So how do you use your strengths as a mentor? Well, the first thing is you use your report, you take a look at it, you learn about it, you study it, you get those results, and in your role as a mentor, you think, how do I use this particular theme? How do I express myself? In what way do I engage? Do I go out and search for more information because that's a strength that I have? Or is it more about my relationship and my conversation or any number of those 34 themes that will show up possibly in the report? Second, you'll use your strengths themes to develop relationships with your students. You'll use your strengths themes to help hold your students, the ones that you're mentoring, accountable. Now, I'm using the plural form here right now, but ideally, of course, right now, you only are paired with one student. So don't misunderstand when I say hold your students accountable. I'm not talking about you having more than one student that you're mentoring right now. We're just having each of you mentor one person. And then here's the other thing, that don't misunderstand that the value that you can gain yourself personally in your own journey as a mentor by learning of your strengths themes. So we do hope that you gain something, that you're able to apply your strengths themes not just in the mentoring relationship, but also in your life, in your career, in your relationships with other people, and in other ways. So we hope that your use of the strengths themes that comes from your report are valuable beyond just the mentoring experience. So what are the stages of the strengths-based mentoring journey? I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because Emma is going to talk more about mentoring and the concepts of that. But in terms of strengths, first there's the preparation. So if you haven't yet virtually met your student that you're mentoring, then there's that preparation aspect. We're going to be sending out the StrengthsFinder assessment codes and instructions to complete that within the next day or two. And so you'll complete the assessment, study your own report, feel free to use the resources that Emma is going to talk about, and know a direction and have some sense of what that first meeting might be like. Stage 2, develop your relationship with the student. Stage 3, it's all about awareness, coming to understand what does this report even mean and what are my strengths themes. Stage 4, develop those themes. Learn what it's like to actually get better at the strengths that you already have and how can you do that. And as you develop those themes, and primarily you work with the students to help them develop their strengths themes, engage in activities. There will be resources that you can point students to and that you can talk about with your students to help them develop their strengths. And then fifth, to apply them to some future goal or some future endeavor, maybe a study abroad experience or an internship or getting involved in some kind of a organization or activity here on campus. How do they apply their strengths to those kinds of goals and things they want to achieve? Stage 6, sort of come to a wrap-up and conclusion of the relationship. And then stage 7, you're doing some self-reflection on what that mentoring experience was like. What did you gain? How would you choose to do it differently? What support do you need? And how can we help you to have a good experience? So this cycle that you see, this idea of name, claim, and aim is the fundamentals of that mentoring relationship and the cycle, the process that we just talked about. If you remember those 3 or focus your relationship with the students around those 3, that will be a great framework for working through the next 8 to 10 weeks in your interactions with the students. And finally, the last slide that I have before tossing it back over to Emma is this one. In terms of what are we expecting as far as outcomes, the intention is that you would help the students learn for themselves what is it that they want to get out of a mentoring relationship. Part of what we're hoping happens as an outcome to this whole program is that the students themselves will learn, how do I go about getting a mentor? Once I have a mentor, why do I have that mentor relationship? And that they are driving the process. Our expectation is that students learn a mentoring relationship starts with them making the choice, going and finding a mentor, and then developing that mentoring relationship. So our expectation is not you being responsible for this relationship, but the students are the ones responsible. What we hope you drive the conversation in part is helping them see and understand, why do they need a mentor? Have they given any thought to that? Why did they sign up? What do they want to accomplish as a result of this relationship? And some of you with your matches, the students answered that question in their application, and you can look there as a beginning, but feel free to dig a little deeper and ask the students to go a little farther and explain more so they can set some goals for the mentoring process as well. And then, of course, you're able to show the students how their development of strengths can actually help them achieve the success that they're looking for. We know for a certainty that students will be more engaged both here in college as well as in their life, in their career after college, when they have a person who they feel emotionally supports them, cares about them, and encourages them to accomplish their dreams and aspirations. So that's a large part of what we're asking you to fulfill, is to support them, inspire them, help them feel like they can in fact accomplish their goals. And this tool of the StrengthsFinder assessment is one of the things they can use to do that. So we thank you for participating, and look forward to answering your questions and engaging with you as we work through this whole new pilot program. Emma, I'll send it back to you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael, for going through the StrengthsFinders component of what we're hoping to accomplish with this program. And I hope that gives our participants a little more of an idea of what to expect, especially when those assessment codes are sent out. What I'd like to do now is move ahead to just the basics. To complement what Michael was talking about with StrengthsFinder and how that can be incorporated into a mentorship relationship. That's kind of a hot topic or a popular term, but what really is mentorship? And so what I'd like to do is hopefully play this video. I'll definitely keep an eye on the chat in case there's any functionality issues with it. But I think it tells a really good story about a student's perspective of the power of mentoring. So let's take a listen. The video is much longer than that. We'll try that one more time.
Have you ever worked really hard for something that you wanted really bad, and once you had it, you weren't sure how you were going to be able to maintain that? There was a time in my life when I was in college, and all of the hard work I had put into enrolling in the school of my dreams almost came to an end. A pivotal moment that changed my future in the path that I was on. As a first-generation college student, fresh off the farm at a private university, I learned quickly that high school had not prepared me for the academic rigor of college. I struggled in my first year, taking classes toward a career in the sciences that I had convinced myself I was ready for. After failing chemistry my first semester that first year of college, I was a little dejected, but I had an epiphany. If I took that same class the second semester, why wouldn't I pass it? Boy, was I wrong. When I failed chemistry that second semester, it was very clear to me that my future did not lie in the sciences. So to begin my second year of college on academic probation meant venturing into a new path. This time I figured business would be the route to take. Optimistic that my new major would lead to success, I enrolled in economics courses. 2 classes and 2 semesters later, I found myself in that same place, failing my classes and coming to a crossroads. Do I stay for another semester without financial aid and try and get my grades up, or do I transfer to the community college and finish my degree just to be done with school? Have you ever reflected on the successes in your life and wondered who may have been there to help you along the way? Sometimes I think we feel we reach our victories alone, but if we think really hard, we probably find that there was someone there pushing us along the way. Mentoring is so important because of the impact it can have on an individual's life, but also your own. In fact, studies out of Johns Hopkins suggest that when adults mentor young people, there's an effect on the ability to prevent and delay declining brain function. There's something about mentoring that just makes you feel good. Now, you can be an intentional mentor, meaning that you seek out opportunities to help others grow, or perhaps you fall into the unintentional mentoring category, being a mentor and not even knowing it. I've had many mentors in my life, both professionally and personally, mostly intentional, others not. But think about that. Have you ever mentored someone and not even realized it? Maybe you were advising or leading by example, and you never saw the results of that mentoring. I've learned along the years that our actions and our behaviors give us mentoring qualities, but you don't have to be old to mentor. Young people can mentor too. Some of my favorite moments have been when I've been able to connect with students that have impacted my life and realize that something in our passing helped them grow and succeed. I love reconnecting with those students after the years have gone by and learning that our relationship impacted their future. Now, I don't want you to confuse mentoring with being a role model. Role models can also lead by example. But as we've seen in the media, role models can go from good to bad. Mentors have the ability to lead in just about every situation. So when I came to that crossroad in college, when I had to choose between staying and going, it was my work study supervisor, Darlene, and her husband, Rich, who mentored me. They helped me see what I couldn't see in myself. I clearly remember that night in their dining room, talking about my options. They gave me the tools to make the right decision. All along I had possessed these tools. I just didn't know how to use them. I'm not sure if they realized how much their mentoring changed my life, but it's given me many opportunities to give back and help others utilize their tools on their journeys to success. I came back junior year with a new focus. I found my passion in serving others and a curiosity for learning of other people and other cultures. I majored in sociology, and I had a way better GPA when I graduated from college. My true passion. I continued on to get my master's in educational leadership and look forward to pursuing my doctorate very soon. One day of mentoring can change one life forever. Be that mentor.
So hopefully that video streamed well for everybody. What I really appreciate about that video is, one, it really talks about the story of, a student in the time of their lives where you as mentors will be impacting students here at JMU. And you can see the emotion in this presenter and how the mentorship relationship has impacted this individual for the long term. And so I hope that that is inspiring to you all as you kickstart your participation in this program. So mentorship, at its core, being a mentor is being that trusted advisor. And a mentee is about being vulnerable, responsible, and taking initiative. Mentoring relationships are about making yourself available to support. If you're a mentee, it's about being willing to be supported. It's about advising someone when they need it and sometimes when they don't. It's about, as a mentee, receiving that advice and delivering support in a way that makes sense. It's about having humility to accept feedback from your mentor, and on both sides, always keeping the person's best interest in mind and showing gratitude and openness to learn and grow together in your relationship. A mentor and mentee relationship can last for years. It can last for one meetup, like in that video. It took one day, and that can change somebody for a lifetime. They come in all shapes and sizes, lengths and variations, and it's truly a partnership, a two-way street, as you see in the top quote. I'm a big quote person, and so I feel like that really resonates in what a mentorship relationship is about. And it requires a full investment in the relationship on both the mentor and mentee's part. So, with mentorship in mind, how can, as a mentor, you be amazing? Of course, we're going to use, the StrengthsFinders results as Michael went through, and looking at those top 5 components and tailoring those conversations based on those assessments. But along with that, what are some foundational aspects that can set you apart? If you haven't or are about to, make sure that that first meeting that you set up, you set expectations together. How often do you want to connect? In what method do you prefer communication? It's about taking genuine interest in your mentee as a person. You can give mediocre advice without really knowing a person, but to really stand out as an amazing mentor, you're going to really need to get to know your mentee on a personal level. And those StrengthsFinders assessments are going to help with that conversation. It's also about being an active listener. It's about knowing when to ask questions, but also when to step back and just let your mentee talk about what they have going on. And that really ties into knowing when to wait, really, before giving advice. It's okay for there to be silence. Kind of like in an interview, if you don't have an answer right away, it's all right to take a pause and really think about what your response should be without rushing into it, and making sure that that advice is going to be purposeful and thoughtful for your mentee. It's about not assuming that you know as much about your mentee as you think you do. Ask questions. It's a conversation, and going back to that quote before, it's that two-way street. And it's about being really forthcoming about mistakes that you've made. Our mentees can learn from the things that you've gone through, and maybe you can make that path a little easier for them when they take their adventures to the next level. It shows that you're human, and it also provides some problem-solving skills for your mentee if they were to ever encounter a similar situation. Just about talking about providing that feedback and advice, make sure to celebrate the achievements of your mentee as well. Rejoice in their successes and build up their confidence. Give more than you ask for. So be the mentor that you wish that you had. Make an extra meeting with your mentee. Maybe stay a little bit longer, do a little bit more than that expectation is, if you can. Also think about seeking out classes or projects that relate to skills that your mentee wants to develop. It's about creating almost an apprenticeship for that mentee. Maybe there are opportunities where you work that they could participate in, or that you know about webinars or workshops that you've attended or have connections to that you would recommend that your mentee participate in to further develop their interests. It's also about solving for the long term. It's about making sure that you work with your mentee Even though you may not have that mentorship forever, but that mindset will make it easier for you to give them long-term guidance, which will help them make decisions that outlive their time and mentorship experience with you. And finally, very simple, but lead by example. Your mentee can learn a lot just by simply observing how you behave in different situations. And then on the flip side, as I said, it's a two-way street. So what can our mentees do to be amazing in that role and really make sure that the give and take is a balanced 50-50? You'll notice those first two are, the same as they are for being a mentor. So you're making those and setting those expectations together. And you're taking genuine interest in your mentor as well, getting to know them on a personal level and knowing their history and how best their experiences can resonate with, what you're hoping to accomplish and what your goals are for that mentoring relationship. It's about showing up for the relationship. And that doesn't just mean physically or making sure that you're on time, even though that is important, but it's about being prepared before your meeting with anything that you agreed upon prior, having notes available, having conversation starters, or updates on things that you had talked about previously. It's also about respecting your mentor. And that really relies in, again, showing up on time, agreeing to do those, I don't want to really use the word homework assignments, but in a mentoring relationship, there will be work as part of that growth and development. And so making sure that you're respecting your mentor's time and participation through being really engaged in that relationship. It's also about being yourself. Being true, the only way that your mentor can really advise you and help you develop your goals is by really knowing the true you. They aren't looking for a clone of themselves. They're there to pull out, as we saw in that video, pull out the strengths that are already within you, that are unique to you as an individual, and help you develop those even more. It's also about building that meaningful rapport, and really, if you follow the first 5 steps, you're halfway there. It's about showing that respect and being engaged and involved in those conversations. It's also about seeking and accepting feedback, being gracious for the feedback that you're receiving, and having some vulnerability in that. You may hear things that you aren't going to want to hear, but that's where that growth mindset comes into play. Your mentor is there less of being a friend. There of course is an opportunity for that, but your mentor isn't always going to say things that you want to hear, and that's what they're there for. They're there to bring you to that next level and bring you to a place that you haven't been so that you can develop and reach your full potential. So number 8, the elephant in the room will crush you. So that's really about that openness with your mentor. If you have an issue going on or a concern, maybe it's in your classwork, maybe it's, thinking about your future career and you're just kind of stewing on this issue, that can impact your relationship. So with that vulnerability and with that open rapport with your mentor, it's about shining light on that elephant. And making sure that you're discussing the difficult questions and the difficult things that you have going on. It's also about reflecting, as Michael mentioned. There'll be opportunity not only at the end, but throughout. You should be reflecting on the experience. And that's really for our mentee and mentors, really thinking about how this relationship is impacting your growth and where you're developing. Why is this important to you, and what are you gaining? And then especially for our mentees, considering passing it along at the end. Maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll want to be in the place to give back to in a mentoring sort of relationship. And also thinking about your peers and talking to them about the benefits of seeking out a mentor based on your experience here today. So some expectations about the mentoring relationship And definitely, Michael, feel free to jump in to make sure I'm covering everything. But as we talked about, you will be assigned a pair if you haven't been already. And we'd like for you guys to meet every other week through May 1st. And meetings can be held virtually through Skype or FaceTime, whatever is most convenient. With each participant will have the opportunity to take that StrengthsFinder assessment, which you'll be receiving soon, as Michael said. And that can be used along with these resources and tips that we've provided as a basis for your conversations. You'll also receive some suggested topics for your meetings, and these resources, as I mentioned, will be available along with the recording of this webinar for you to be able to access in that as well. So some of those mandatory things will be taking that StrengthsFinder assessment that you'll be getting. Also, viewing this webinar because it does pertain to the success of your relationship in that mentoring program that we are kickstarting. You will also, as we mentioned, meet virtually with your mentee every other week at least through May 1st, and then we will have a short post-mentoring assessment just to gauge how the experience went, especially with this pilot program. We really want you to utilize the tips that we recommended to be present and embrace the mentoring as that two-way street, which requires a balance in the investment from both sides of the mentor and mentee relationship. And really, have fun with it and be open to learning from one another through that experience. I don't know, Michael, if you had anything else to add as far as expectations.
No, I think that's great. I would include that if you have questions or if you're struggling with what to do or what's the right thing or anything like that, concerns, anything comes up, we would expect you to reach out to us and ask us. Get in touch and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this, or what about that, or this came up in a conversation I was having, whatever it might be. We would fully expect that you would get in touch with us because our goal is to be supportive and helpful to you as the mentors so you'll have a successful experience with the students.
Wonderful. And then, as I mentioned, here are some resources that we've gathered to really, help you with those conversations. So this webinar will be sent to you, and I'll also include these links in the email so they're even easier for you to access. But feel free to use these, and as Michael said, lean on us as you have questions of the relationship because it's a new experience and program for us all. And with that, we are going to open it up for some questions, and I do see that, Jim, you have your hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so that you can ask your question, and Michael and I will do our best to share our answer with you.
Emma, it's possible that hand raise was from when I took the poll earlier during the session, but Jim did have a question that he sent through on the chat. So, Jim, if you want to go ahead and give voice to that.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. So I met with Claudia last night. We spent about an hour on the phone. We didn't really have anything to go by, so we just sort of hung out, which was cool. I'm
nice.
Sort of curious. I mean, she had a list, and we were kind of joking about whether we had followed it or not, and we decided it really wasn't that important for the first session. So I was just curious what you're doing with them in terms of introducing StrengthsFinders and tips and things like that.
So we did have an orientation meeting with the students. It was a couple of weeks ago, if I'm remembering the date approximately correct. And so we have had an orientation meeting with them. We will be sending them emails on a very regular basis to give them information and stay connected with them so they have resources. And the link that I put in the chat, which should be available to everyone, that's out on the website at the Dukes Leadership Center website. If you click on the alumni link, it will give you a table of resources that at the moment is the exact same table of resources we are giving to the students. Your table of resources will change as we develop resources for you as alumni mentors, but you're able to get to either one. But for right now, we've just duplicated the resources for both of you. So we did have an orientation meeting, and we continue to stay in touch with the students and give them more resources, though they may be as uncertain about next steps as you are. as we continue to roll this out and try and bring everybody up together on the same page.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Looks like Megan, you have questions, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, all right? Megan, what's your name?
Hey guys, this has been super helpful, and I'm excited to get this webinar to kind of review it as well. And I hope I'm not asking a question you covered. I was here for about 98% of it, so just in case. When I went to JMU back in the Stone Ages, there are always so many great events and like resume roundups and all sorts of on-site things that not all of my friends, if my memory serves me, not all of my friends always knew about, or myself. So will you be able to provide for us, you know, some on-site support that you guys already have in place, like that kind of repeat exposure for them, whether it's, hey, here's a list of upcoming events. So if somebody says to me, take a look at my resume, and I help them, but then I also say, but they also have this coming up. Like, do we, or where can you maybe direct us?
That's a really great question, Megan. And my thought goes to the opportunities that you listed. A lot of them are coming from JMU's Career and Academic Planning office. So we can definitely, keep an eye on some of those major events coming up. So like the career fair, for example, your mentee will definitely want to keep an eye on that, and that's happening in 2 weeks. But what I'll do in that email is include a link to their homepage so that you can share that and maybe check in with your mentee about, them going to that office. And they have an event calendar on their homepage that should list all of their upcoming events, like the ones that you've mentioned.
Great, thank you.
Emma, I think Emma, that brings to mind for me, and I really appreciate the question, Megan, because that gives us direction as to the kind of resources you would like to have on the alumni page of resources on the website. So links such as the one Emma just mentioned, links to a calendar of events happening on campus, those kinds of things are things we will add to the alumni resources page. And appreciate that suggestion. And if you have other things that are missing that you want, let us know, and we'll gather them and give resources out there.
Thanks, and also just, I always love to know any books and whatnot as well. If you have any.
Okay.
Yeah, if you guys have any favorite books or whatever, like I always give a lot of people I mentor Road Trip Nation, which is getting a little outdated, but it's a wonderful about entrepreneurship and being young. So, if you guys have any books or, articles, I like those in my arsenal as well.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Really
Thanks,
great.
guys. Go Dukes.
Go Dukes. All right, do we have any other questions?
Kelly's got her hand up, it looks like, Emma.
All right, Kelly, let's see here. You are unmuted. What's your question?
Great. So I just had a question. It sounds like the StrengthsFinders assessment is going to be pretty critical to our discussion. So what's the timing on, when we're expected to get it, how long it'll, take to get those results back, that type of thing, so we can kind of have an idea.
Yes, you will have the StrengthsFinder assessment instructions and link within the next 24 hours. So you'll have it at the absolute latest by the end of the workday tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to go out today, but I guarantee it will go out tomorrow at the latest. It will take you, in the instructions, we encourage you to set aside about 35 to 40 minutes to complete that. It's just a concentrated time. It'll probably only take about 20, but we want you to carve out enough time to complete it. Your assessment results will be immediately available. So as soon as you take that, Gallup, it will take you to the site, the page where the results are, and we will, in the instructions, include, there's several versions of the report. One of them is a generic description report. One of them is a personalized, unique report because of your unique top 5 themes. And then there's one that's a unique report but has action items with it. That's the report that we will invite you to take a look at and invite the students to use. So we will include that in the instructions and the specific title of the report that you have. There are also a lot of resources on the StrengthsQuest website, and we'll include in future notices out to you and on the resources page where you can find some of those. My mind right now is thinking that it would be good for us to put together a short 2 or 3 minute video, a screen capture video with a voiceover pointing out some of those resources. We'll try and put that together for you. So you should have the results by this weekend, because if you can complete the assessment this weekend, you should have it as soon as you take it.
And our mentees, they'll be the same kind of time schedule, they'll be getting it at the same time we are?
Yes, the students will get it at the same time, and we'll be encouraging them to complete it just right away so that they can engage with you in those conversations. Our hope is that the first couple of meetings that you have are actually about developing a relationship, getting to know each other, kind of socializing and getting acquainted, and then somewhere around the third or fourth meeting together, you'll dive into the results and start talking about that and so forth. Even you can easily download a PDF of your own report, and you could exchange that with your student, or at least have them share theirs, or whatever you'd like to do. So they will be on the same time frame as far as receiving the link and instructions, yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kelly. Any final questions? And of course, we're available beyond this webinar for questions that come through. So some really good ones have come through and given us some ideas on how to already enhance this experience for you all. All right.
So Emma, just for alumni to know, I put my email address in the chat box there, mcleavemr@jmu.edu. Feel free to reach out to me through that email address. I can also, if it's helpful, leave my office phone number so that you can reach out to me by phone if that's preferred, and happy to field questions or just talk with you about the experience.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, everybody, well, thank you again for joining the webinar, whether live or listening to the recording. And if you have questions, definitely reach out to our team, and we are here to support you during this full program. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks for joining.